need to rely on the media anymore to get our message out there. So the first thing that we should always do, and this is my philosophy, is put yourself in the reader's place. When I was in college in journalism classes, my instructor was a copy editor at the Philadelphia Inquirer. And he had this ceremony and award, the whole bit called PYRP, P-Y-I-R-P, which is basically put yourself in the reader's place. So that means if you've written something, then you've got to step back and think, how interesting would this be to the reader at home, or the reader at the other end of the computer? Is this clear enough? Is he going to understand it? There's a company in town that, this is a little off the point, but distributed a job description, because they're actually looking to hire, with the words matrixed and siloed. Neither are words. They both came up on my, grammar thing, and I used to work for the company, so I know exactly what it meant. But there's no way you can do that, because let's say this was an economy where you were having trouble finding people to work for you. Well, you're not going to get somebody if half of your words aren't really words. Right. So, and I just thought, see, there's no one there that is either naive enough to say, oh, wait, we can't use that word, it's not really a word. Or they're just like, this is the way we do it, so I'm not going to question it.
No, is this a consistent problem? I mean, are we bad writers?
I don't know if we're bad writers. I think we're very close to our story.
Okay.
And so what seems to make perfect sense to us might not to a person who's reading it, who might have interest in investing in us or buying from us or working with us in some other way. So it's got to be written in a way, send it to your friend who has no idea what your business is. Ask him or her if it makes sense to them. You've got to have that third set of eyes to look at it.
So some of the elements then within the press release are, what do you think?
The vocabulary should be pretty basic.
Okay.
Some people say third or fourth grade reading level. I think that's difficult if you're into technology. Right. But keep that in mind. If there's jargon or terminology with computer games, there's probably a lot of people who know it because they're really into computer games. But I'm not, and I'm interested. So you don't want to, lose me in the first paragraph if you've got terminology in there that I'm thinking, I don't know what that means. That's key.
So, all right. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, the press release that we're talking about needs to go to a wide audience and not specific, because it seems like a reverse in what I've learned is like you got to focus on the target audience you're going after.
Well, yeah.
But
first you have to identify who your target audience is. If it really doesn't matter that a person reading your release about computer games doesn't understand the terminology, then you really don't have to worry about that. But if you were putting out a release because you wanted people to buy this thing, and let's say parents are going to buy it for their computer-savvy kids, but they're not very computer-savvy, then you've got to be concerned about that. But if you're writing to investors who already invest in, then it's not so much of an issue. So along with put yourself in the reader's place, that also means know who your reader or who your target is. And then you can write to that person.
So we can have a number of different types of press releases that aim at different types of target audiences and press an umbrella.
Right.
Right, and do it that way.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
And it might be a little bit off topic, or I might be steering a little bit, but I mean, regardless of who you are trying to reach and what you're trying to say, just sending out a press release to a reporter on a magazine or to some kind of PR wire, it's going to be difficult for you to get picked up. You need to pick up that phone, or you need to write it in such a way that engages that person to make them want to call you back.
Right.
What are those elements? Like, what do you need to include, investor relations aside, and what you house on your own website? When I want to get some press for my business or my client, how do I need to approach? Give me like a hit list of what I need to do when I'm going to go speak to my reporter.
There's a number of different things. One of them is to give some kind of context. And I'll explain what that means, again, with the Brain Tumor Foundation. The biggest press day that I got for Heinz-Grundner was the day that Senator Ted Kennedy died. Can you figure out why?
it was timely.
Yeah, he died from a brain tumor. And I had told Chris months before, I said, you know, it doesn't sound very nice, but when Ted Kennedy dies, that's going to be our opportunity. And I woke up, you know, at 7 o'clock, and he had died, and I got right on Chris's cell phone and woke him up. And he said, do you really think this is in good taste? And I said, well, it might not seem like it's in good taste, but I think by the end of the day, people will be thanking us for giving them a local angle to a national story. And that's just what they did. So if you can take your story and make reference to or tie it to something that's happening nationally, then it does a lot of favors for the press. It gives them a local angle. And if not just that, it helps them to picture better what you're doing because you've compared it or put it in the same satellite as something like that. Basic story elements, and this has always been the case for all the years I've been in PR, sex, conflict, crime, or really unusual. I've taken to say to my clients, that's why they call it action news. You know, when people are disappointed because they don't get on Channel 6, well, you know what? There aren't any PR people for the fires and the murders and the rapes in North Philadelphia. Hate to say that. But, and they're on every night because I don't think people are watching that anymore, but the people that produce the news, that's how they know how to operate. It's very easy to send a crew out, cover a fire, get the video, and then come back. Doesn't really take almost any understanding at all. But at the same time, there are opportunities for other stories, especially if there's a 4 o'clock report, 5 o'clock report, 6 o'clock report. That's when you can get features on there. And another sort of local hook was a guy who sat in this chair in November, I think, job search career coach. And so towards Christmas, I pitched him to the media. He had some tips for job searches in 2011. And I'm telling you, 5 minutes after I sent it, Tracy Davidson from Channel 10 called back. Because it just fits right into her mode of operating. She does news from 5 to 6 on Channel 10. A lot of it is, you know, consumer tips, how to do this, how to do that. And, I mean, I think Chris Barton, the expert, is still in shock. I called him and I said, can you go to Channel 10 tomorrow afternoon? He said he thought, you know, maybe I'd get it on a few blogs or in a weekly newspaper. And I said, well, when you hatch upon a good idea, you got to run with it. So those are some of the elements. The local angle, of course, is big. Some of us here probably know this. It's really hard to get press coverage out of Philadelphia here in Wilmington. Some people up there think that we're in a different time zone.
And you're sure not going to get it on a Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. A Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, the brain tumor guy has a fundraising walk every year on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. There's just no way. I won't even write a press release for him anymore. But that's the reality of it. Oh, I know what I was going to say. This producer I know, have known her since the first day I started working. I lined up a restaurant feature on a talk show that she produces, and it took a while for her to come, but when I first started talking to her about the idea and gave her one recipe that she could spotlight, she said, well, I need more than one, Ed, if we're going to come all the way down there. Half an hour.